Hello, I'm very pleased to welcome Lalit Parmar. Lalit has been with consumer facing brands for the last 17 years, which include again some very iconic brands like L'Oreal and Nivea. He was also the person who was actually part of the startup group who set up Hasbro here in 2017. Lalit, I'm very pleased to welcome you to the PR Moment India Leadership Series.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Parul. Thanks a lot, and thanks for having me here on this session. Really appreciate that.
Lalit, to dive straight in, COVID has of course given a very sharp push to indoor games and the kind of time that people have had. So you actually have the consumer available at home for long periods of time, which has never happened before. So, what was the chief way that you decided to convey your message to these consumers during COVID?
Yeah. With I think with COVID, what happened was everyone was at home. Parents were looking for solutions to stay sort of occupied with their kids. And at Hasbro, as experts in play, we had this unique opportunity to share our knowledge and make it easy for families to have fun with toys and games. In fact, at Hasbro, we launched a multi-channel campaign called "Bring Home the Fun," that provided creative solutions which are not only fun for the entire family but also beneficial for childhood development. What we observed via social listening tools, we noticed that consumers had a need to connect to each other without being really physically present together. They were playing games virtually, celebrating birthdays together with toys and games, also all virtually. And Hasbro also provided tools to play certain games like Taboo, Cluedo virtually. So we latched onto this opportunity of providing and relating back to our consumers virtually with our titles and our brands. What we also observed was, brick and mortar retail and offline shopping consumer consumption was declining because of the lockdowns, and that's where consumers were turning to e-commerce to purchase essentials and especially toys and games, as they were looking for solutions and ways to stay entertained and have fun indoors. As marketers, it has been interesting to create engaging strategies that replicate offline shopping experience on online shopping platforms. Even on social media, we found out that there was a huge surge in demand, and we found out that the amplification through influencers was picking up big time. Because of long duration of people staying indoors, all forms of contents were being consumed almost 2x of what they were before the pandemic. So, like in unboxing of toys and games, how to play games virtually, fun ways to play with the classic games. Adding a twist to a classic game or a board game was something which was looked out for. And parents influencers were also sharing learning and education suggestions through toys and games. So I think these were few of the things I would mention around how we have adapted ourselves during and after the COVID sort of pandemic.
Thank you for that extremely detailed answer. Are there any insights that you can share that were there any specific age groups or categories of consumers that were more attracted towards board games and the products that you offer?
So I think what we have observed is board games in general has seen an uptick across the world and across the markets. What happens during these pandemic times is, everyone, and as with the surge in digital adoption, you find everyone in the household attached to their own screens and trying to consume content. So, but there is also a lot of anxiety during this point of time. And what happens is there is a need for physical connection and interaction, which happens at a family unit level. Now, to help that, board games fit in very linearly because, when let's say when you're playing a game of Monopoly, you're not playing alone. You're playing with others. You're playing with kids. You're playing with your better halves, or even your parents. So the entire family unit comes together, and that is what creates this fine, I would say, fine and fun memories. And that's the reason one of our campaigns also now talks about a board game is just not a box of game. There are a lot of memories included in that. So that's a tagline which was the latest campaign which we run in the global markets, which is all about memories included. So when you're playing a board game, you are physically present there. You're not you're not consuming any other content. You're not, let's say, fiddling with your phone or with a digital device. All of you are physically present in that moment, connecting with each other, competing with each other, winning, cheating. Everything is fair and fair in those moments. So I think that's something which really resonated across age groups. So your question, to answer your question, it was not just limited to, let's say, kids. As a family unit, we saw everyone rallying behind board games. Getting it in their households and playing with each other to reduce the anxiety level, as well as create those fond memories, I would say. Because let's say 2 years down the line, we don't want to remember 2020 just for COVID, right? We want to also remember it for the fun and togetherness which we had along with our family and our close ones. So that's where I think board games have resonated across age groups.
So I'd like to discuss this a little further. You talked about how it allows you to immerse yourself in content which doesn't involve you staring at a screen. So that actually is something which parents, it's a matter of a lot of concern for them about their children, and it does require a behavior change, which is very tough for children who've only grown up around screens.
Yeah.
So is there anything specific that you are trying to communicate in this line, apart from the memory, the nostalgia evoking peg for the campaign?
Yeah. See, from a digital perspective, I would say that COVID has really accelerated the digital adoption. With all the virtual schooling which is happening, it's essential that for kids to also know how to operate this within this entire digital ecosystem. So it would be futile exercise to say that digital is just draining away the attention or the time for kids, right? It's essential, it's required, because they need to know how to operate a system to interact with their classrooms, with their teachers, right? So it's pretty much there, and it's going to be there. I have been reading a lot of stuff around it, and it's futile to take that away from the kids. Next generation of when our kids grow up, they will be in this ecosystem where digital everything would be connected, right? So it would not be fair to take that learning and that experience which they develop at this juncture from them. But then at the same time, it's also important to see to it that what are they consuming, how they are consuming, what sort of limits you would like to place. Imagine, and I have two daughters, and I do regularly check with them, and I talk to them, and I say that, take 2019, how many hours were you exposed to a digital screen? That has gone up or multiplied exponentially last year and right now. Because let's say the moment they start their day, they are hooked to a digital screen for their classrooms for almost 5 to 6 hours. Then they have their, let's say, if they have their classes, they're again hooked to that. So the amount of time has exponentially increased. So where do they cut off? Means, let's say, if they were watching any other things on TV, or extended hours of TV viewing, or anything which they were doing on mobile for extended period of time, you try to cut off that and balance it out. So I would my recommendation would be to not take them away completely, but balance it out in some way or the other. And that's where taking that time off can be done very effectively via games, and play together sessions which parents can have along with their kids.
Thank you. That's actually very, very interesting. Your take that you can't really, it's too late to really try and separate children from the digital ecosystem. You just have to make sure that playtime, which is healthy, fits in
Yes.
and complements what they're already doing. Which brings me to the next question. The kind of board games that you offer are, of course, very iconic names. It's definitely not a cliche to say that they're iconic. How do you appeal and stay relevant to, I know pipeline is a bad word, but in a sense, it is the pipeline, the next generation of youngsters? How do you maintain relevance, it has relevant connect with them?
Yeah, and thanks for this question. I think this is a very interesting one, and I would, to answer this, our brands have resonated with the Indian consumers since years because of the legacy and the relevancy of play these brands offer. So just to mention, last year we celebrated 85 years for Monopoly, and this year we celebrate 65 years for Play-Doh. So you imagine these brands have been there for so long, and they have not, and they're still relevant. So somewhere down the line, as an organization, enough and more has been done from our side to understand and make them relevant over years and across generations. At a recently concluded CEO conclave, which happened on the annual of the Indian Toy Fair, Honorable Mr. Minister Mr. Piyush Goyal remembered how he enjoyed playing our iconic brand Risk when he was young. Honorable Minister Mrs. Smriti Irani also shared some cherished moments, memories of playing Monopoly with her kids. So I think this showcases that not just all of us have grown up with these brands over years. And what happens at our end is, we listen to our consumers, really go in depth to understand what they want, and create products that fit their lifestyle, including engaging content, enhanced play experiences, and digital interactions. Our marketing, design, and development teams are constantly researching and looking at the latest trends to uncover new technology to incorporate into our products. So, we have come up with products which have leveraged AR also in the past, which is augmented reality, right? So, we have toys which have come across, and we are still leveraging that in future. Just to quote an example here, in Monopoly, we came up with this. Monopoly is usually associated with cash, right? Paper cash, right? With the property cards, action cards, everything there. It's very tangible paper based game. But with the evolution of how digital, how payments have been affected, we have seen a lot of uptake now on digital transactions. Cards have replaced cash, right? So we came up with this ultimate banking version, which has, as I said, cards replacing cash. And taking into consideration the growth in voice based search, we also now have an offering where we have a Monopoly voice banking version. So there is just like it's an audio device which helps you do all the transactions. So these products and brands have evolved, taken into consideration the changes in consumer needs, and that's it. That's the reason we put a lot of onus on analytics, on consumer listening, and then coming out with identifying these trends which are happening in the larger ecosystem, and coming out with propositions and adaptations of our products to fit linearly with what's going on in the society at large. I would also like to also mention that during the entire development process, we have kids and parents vet out most of these innovations via interactive, what we call fun lab sessions, where they interact with new products and give us feedback to improvise. And finally, our marketing teams worldwide execute clutter breaking creative executions, which are deployed at scale to drive awareness and consideration for our brands and products.
In fact, I've actually played the Monopoly version with the digital box, and actually had a lot of fun with it. Last year,
Great.
I have not played it this year, but last year with my brother and my mother, we played a lot. And my mother is a strategic player, so so we were quite annoyed about losing to her. So it was a lot of fun. So, to come back to this whole discussion of digital and how do you make offline games relevant? So, two parts of the question. You said that your creatives are at scale and your communication is at scale, really, which is not easy to do. And in a way, digital is in contrast because it is at scale, but it's also about targeted audiences, micro influencers, which as and Ryan's Toys, of course, is a famous
Yeah.
toy influencer. So when you have that kind of contrast, are you, for example, say advertising on Candy Crush, for example? Are you doing
Hmm.
those kind of linkage where children are already on those online games,
Yeah.
and you offer them an option?
Yeah. So what happens is, from a marketing perspective, when we reach out to kids, what happens is there are a lot of global standards in terms of not to identify or zero in on a kid audience or collect any data around it. So in India, specifically, if I were to look at it, we definitely leverage a lot of advertising via TV media, which is broadcast media. So you have so many channels, cartoon channels there, and kids have a lot of affinity and watch these cartoon channels. So we do spend a sizable amount of our advertising budgets reaching out to our kids via this medium. We have also leveraged, as I talked about earlier, also influencers. So you talked about Ryan, I think, who's the one of the highest earning influencers globally, and he has all grown up with toys and unboxing them. So in India also there are enough and more kid influencers who unbox toys and games, and kids watch their content. They want to get inspired with what is new and what is upcoming. So we do associate with influencers also, and as you rightly mentioned, yeah, we also work with ecosystems on digital, but we cannot target directly to the kids, right? Because it's, as I said, it's not compliant with our internal policies also. So what we do is we look out for signals, we look out for contextual targeting, where we know, okay, fine, if someone is searching for a toy or a toy brand, more or less that person would be a kid. So we showcase our ads to such audiences, but we don't directly target kids, or neither do we collect any data. So I think these are the few avenues with which we reach out to our potential target audience, and communicate to them what new products and new innovations we are bringing to the market.
That's very interesting. I was not aware that there is a full-fledged. Of course, it's quite obvious now that you think about it, but it's very interesting to know about the ethics of selling to children. Of course, that's an obvious
Yeah,
one,
and
but it's
I would
important
just
that
like to
toys
mention,
somehow.
yeah, I would like to
Oh,
mention that Hasbro, for the 10th year consecutively, has been awarded as one of the most ethical organizations in the world by Ethisphere, which is an amazing feat in itself. So we definitely follow a lot of guidance, and when it comes to following ethical standards, even when it comes to our sourcing, all our vendors need to adhere to certain standards, ethical standards. So all of that is taken into consideration before even we source. So a lot of impetus is given on ethics, and how do we stand against our principles on those.
that's very interesting because normally I would think of food companies and sugar-based products, but those are the things which. But it's really interesting to know. Thank you for sharing that. We're moving towards the end of the interview. It's been a really fascinating conversation. India itself has a history of board games. Is of course the dice game is so embedded in our culture, and because of Mahabharata and the kind of story it has in our lives, in our cultural lives. So, given the kind of, was that something you looked at India's own experience with the history of board games and how do they regard play with board games? Did that go into your communication and marketing strategies at all?
Yeah. So when it comes to India, I think as Hasbro's mission is to create the world's best play experiences, and the best play experiences stand apart from anyone else's and deliver joy, creativity, and connection around the world and across generations. At Hasbro, we continue to focus on introducing, as I said, advanced products to the Indian market, which provide a diverse play experience and employ different levels of technology, manufacturing capability, and safety standards. And over the last 5 to 8 years, we have been making massive inroads in terms of encouraging local manufacturing and product development. Also, the Make in India agenda, which is currently being I would say supported by government. Hasbro is ramping its contribution of Indian manufactured products which are locally sourced, and we are planning to increase this in coming years. And just to talk about how do we make our brands much more contextual, we have just recently launched a Monopoly deal card game, and for the first time, it's coming in a vernacular language, which is Hindi. So it's all done here locally, made in India. Concept is all local, and everything in the game is all in Hindi. We also have a India version of a Monopoly board game, which has Indian cities. Players can trade, buy, sell properties, and these all properties are Indian cities. So that's something which we do to really stay relevant for the Indian market. On 19th March, which is the World Monopoly Day, we are gonna get community back in the community chest. So if you've played Monopoly, there is a community chest card, and what we are doing is we are having a digital led campaign, which is going to be done here in India, also executed here in India, where fans will be able to vote for the next deck of community chess cards. So the campaign will also be activated across numerous digital touch points like Facebook, Instagram, as well as on the web. So these are ways and means with which we have co-creation, I would say, along with our consumers, have them a say in the product development process. So let's say this community chest challenge, where everyone will be able to vote which community chest cards should be replaced and with what. So if you vote for that, these all voted cards will eventually come in our board game. So the idea of co-creation along with consumers, staying relevant. India is such a diverse market with, as we said, I don't know, thousands of dialects and so many languages. And we don't want to just offer our products in English. So there is a Hindi version of games which are coming in, and depending on the success of that product, we will eventually look out for more other languages also. So these are ways and means, I would say, we try to stay relevant, try to be as topical as possible, and come out with our offerings which drives access of our brands across geographies and across length and breadth of the country.
So we're looking at greater regionalization, greater customization, and also co-creation by consumers.
Yes.
That's the communication strategy going forward. So thank you so much, Lalit. That's been a wonderful conversation. And for those of you who are watching today's World Monopoly Day, so those of you who love and want to play, there's a lot to look forward to from Hasbro. Monopoly in your own languages and cards which are voted for you by you. So thank you, Lalit, for joining us today.
Thanks a lot, Parul, for having me. It's been an interesting, discussion, and all your questions are quite relevant, and I enjoyed replying back to each one of them.